All right, everybody. So we have Jeremy Hornstra with us today. If you're watching this, you probably have a good idea of who he is. He's an extremely impressive powerlifter with a world record in the 242 and the 275 bench press. And, I think, like I said, a lot of people know who you are, but how did you get involved with this to begin with?
It was actually a long process. I started completely different realm. I was triathlete, and I did swim team. So went from that. I was like a butterfly and a breaststroker. So as I was lifting weights, it just seemed like my bench press just kept getting stronger and stronger. Got into bodybuilding just because that was like what I wanted to be. Because I saw He-Man growing up, and all the action figures want to look like the old Ninja Turtle. But then, as I was at FSU, I was just competing for a bodybuilding show, and I was about 3 weeks out, and somebody who competed in powerlifting said, like, man, you just, like, did the world record for a double. And so after the bodybuilding show, I jumped in a powerlifting competition, and everything just kind of fell into place. I started getting invited to big shows, and everything just kind of rolled from there.
So you didn't really know yet, like, how strong your bench was. Like, he had to kind of tell you that you were doing that much.
Pretty much. I didn't know, if you Google, powerlifter at the time, you see, a 400-pound guy, with a bunch of hot dogs on the back of their head looking. And it didn't want to look like that, so I didn't care. I just was trying to get as strong as I could. And it was one of those, you only use, the 25s and the 45s. So, I would jump up a 45, and if I couldn't get it, then I'd get a force rep. And I just kept going up that way. And, like I said before, I knew it. I was trying to get 6 plates, and then I was trying to get 635, and then just kind of roll.
Jeez, man. That's awesome. And something I had heard you say before is, and your opinion might have changed since then, but that, most of your work was done very hard to failure or very close to failure. I remember you said, your belief was you get out what you put in. Now I hear a lot of people talk about more submaximal training and, really not doing a lot of sets that aren't really to failure. So where do you fall in that?
I can see the benefits of both, but I'm still a strong advocate of going to failure, or at least close to it, because, like you said, you do get out of it what you put into it. And, if you look at, the strength athletes from, the 70s and the 80s and stuff, I think they were honestly stronger. They might not have had, the form. They might not have, had the arch and, worked on the leg drive. But they were just huge, strong guys that, pushed themselves to this point of, going up all the time. And if they didn't get it, it was a force rep. And just pushing as hard as they could every time, just pushing past where they thought they would be able to go.
And when you say every time, you mean every session, maybe towards the end of an exercise, or even, every set is pretty much to failure?
I wouldn't say necessarily every set. Because what I always did was I started with, the heavy, power movements, basically. Even though I was doing bodybuilding, it was chest day was chest, or bench press. So you start with that, and I would work up to, a heavy max, and then go for something 10 or 15 pounds heavier, and just get, a good solid force rep, and then drop down. The next thing, the same thing. The next exercise, the same thing. And then, maybe, towards the end, I might, end on flies, but I don't think I've ever gone to failure on a fly.
Yeah, right. And, as we were saying before the show started, I got connected with you through Josh Bryant, and I got to do an interview with him as well. I know you had worked with him for a while now. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned from him?
Josh really introduced me into how to actually train for a powerlifting show. When I actually ended up tearing my bicep a little bit at the Olympia because I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of went and I would go heavy, and I didn't know how much I weighed, so I just wanted to make sure I was under, and I was dehydrated. And 2 hours later, I lifted, so I was lifting dehydrated.
Sure.
I didn't know any better. So when he actually started working with me, it was let's break it up into an actual chest day, and then a speed chest day. We'll work on the volume and everything with that. And then a leg day and a back day, and just make sure that you're staying balanced, and if there's any weaknesses, you address the weaknesses, because you can bench 600 pounds off your chest, but if you can't lock out 5, then you're not locking out 5.
Right. And he and I talked a little bit about how he's big into visualization. Is that something he had you do?
As far as what?
Visualizing yourself getting a new record or a lift that you had been stalled on.
Yeah, because I guess that's one aspect of why I actually warm up the way I do. I pretend 135 is 700. So as I'm lifting, I mean, I'm going to throw it off my chest with the same force and the same speed and power that I would with 700 pounds. With 225, same thing. 315, same thing. 4 or 5. So I'm visualizing I'm actually going to get it. I know what I have in mind. So when you actually put in the work in the gym, I mean, the competition is just the performance. You're just kind of showing everybody where you're at. I don't really leave it to like roll dice. Like, I hope I get this or I hope I get this. Like, I know what I can get. And if everything falls into place as far as like strength and diet and everything, then it should go.
Right. And you guys are still working together, is that right?
Yes, still are.
Okay. Gotcha. You had mentioned like some of the, say again?
Long time now.
Yeah. How many years has it been?
Man, I don't even know. 6, 7.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had mentioned the speed work that you're doing, like a bench speed day. And I would say 5 to 10 years ago, I heard a lot of people mention speed work and dynamic effort days and things like that. And I hear about it less now. So how are you guys incorporating the speed work?
We still do it because I mean, to compare to like football, I mean, you can be 400 pounds, but if I'm running 50 miles an hour at you and I hit you, you're going to go down.
Yeah.
Like we incorporate that like pretty much on the third day. I might do it like on my heavy volume chest day, but it seems like now like the training is based like on like RPE and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like I want to do 88%. I don't know what 88% of my max that current day is.
Sure.
So we're just going to focus on like going hard and heavy, hit the volume, and then make sure that the speed is there, the fast twitch development, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, awesome. And with all these different days, how many days a week do you tend to be actually benching?
Benching 2.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've got like one heavy day, and it usually takes about 3 hours. I warm up long. I make sure that like I'll hit like 135 for a couple sets, and then 225 for a couple sets. So by the time I actually get to my working sets, it's been almost an hour.
Yeah.
But then like once like I'm done with that, it's almost like like the hard part is still to come.
Yeah.
You know, the weighted dips and the dead presses and the isostatic presses, superset with close grip bench with a band, and then so it starts stacking up. The next day that I do chest is usually about 3 or 4 days later, and it's like I said, it's like either just close grip or a modification of it, or just speed work.
Okay, and you tend to do a lot more close grip in general, right? Like your grip and even for your regular bench.
My grip is luckily where I was taught, like in high school, by the people who don't really know how to coach weightlifting whatsoever, is a thumb length from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily for me, when I touch, I'm right at 90 degrees with my elbows. So that's my strongest part to actually use all the muscle groups incorporated.
Gotcha. Do you find, and this is something I asked Josh as well, do you find that for guys with longer arms, you'll have them, I see both arguments. From a safety standpoint, they often say to go closer grip, but from a strength and minimal range of motion, they tend to go wider. Do you have a preference for people you might work with longer arms?
I think honestly, like it's going to fall in that same thing to where like where they can find the position to use all the right muscle groupings. If they're so wide that you're not even using your triceps at all, then the entire strength of your tricep is eliminated. So if you can find that balance and that center point to where you're using your chest, your delts, your lats, and your triceps all together, cool. If you are completely unbalanced and you're like, I'm so much stronger with my triceps, then work on your chest and get stronger. So when you find that balance, you can actually press more.
Right. Sure. And I guess that's where, the accessory exercises come in determining, which muscles to emphasize for that range of motion.
Definitely. Because, the argument is, yes, so if you have long arms, then typically it's going to be wider grip, but some of the strongest benchers I know have a close grip and they got some long arms, so.
Yeah. I found I kind of need it because I have a pretty long, about 6'4" wingspan, and I still have to go closer, but that more because it just feels a little safer to me. I tend to get some shoulder issues when I go wide, but I think I actually am stronger wide. It's just obviously the injuries can prevent things even if they're optimal strength-wise.
Yep, I feel a lot more confident when I go a little bit closer, even like on close grip bench. Like I can hit like a hard, heavy working set on just my normal grip, and then like it seems I drop to 20 pounds and I go close grip, and I'm just like not necessarily rubbing it out, but I'm just much more confident doing it. Like the distance and everything, I just feel better.
Right, right. And with all those sets and the accessory exercises, at rough estimate, how many sets for chest would you say you're doing per week? It sounds like the volume is pretty high.
Yeah, it's high. It's not as high as it used to be. But like you talking about, like including my warm ups as well, or just like the actual.
Let's say hard sets, but not just bench, even like dips and all the other things you're doing.
Maybe let's see, maybe like 15 to 20
per session.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it definitely gets up there.
Yeah.
What did it used to be?
When I first started with Josh, the main thing that we wanted to do was like back off the weight and just get everything balanced and make sure that everything is completely like you're pushing what you're pulling and your front delts are strong as your rear delts and all that kind of stuff. So, man, it was twice that almost.
Wow. Right, so you're talking
the reps
60 to 80.
The same. However, it was like twice as many exercises.
Wow, yeah, a weekly volume sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Now, how are you guys doing it as far as periodizing within cycles? You know, do you guys follow a lot of different? Is there a certain model that you follow, or does it seem to change for every meet you do?
It doesn't necessarily change. I think one of the things that he does that I do as well is to try to find like what I'm strong at the time. So if I'm not crazy fast off my chest, then I mean, really need to work on the lockout. But then if it seems like my lockout is like I'm locking everything out, then I need to work on the bottom half or on the middle. Wherever I'm getting stuck is usually what we end up working on the most. Because now it just kind of seems like there's like no break. It's like the next one's 8 weeks away, and then I do that, and it's like, okay, well I got like 9 weeks till this one, and so always training for something.
Do you feel like that's kind of burning you out having so many meets?
Yes and no. Training for something, I think if you actually have something in mind that you're specifically training for, you're going to do your best. If you're just, then I mean, you're not really, there's no goals, there's no hard push, but it almost seems like that deadline. Like if you were bodybuilding and you had a show in 6 weeks, you'd be a lot more apt to eat clean.
Sure.
If you're just, I just want to be lean, but one week is not so.
Right.
But yeah, for the timeline and the crunch, I tend to do a little bit better. But off-season training, I usually get my strongest.
Yeah, I'm sure with all those competitions, I mean, one injury could set you back from, numerous competitions in a row there. So I know you said you do the closer grip. Are there any other things you do to prevent injuries that are so common with heavy benching?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few because it's like you never care about an injury until you get one.
Right.
And then, so like I tore my chest, so it's like little stuff like I make sure like that the day of and the day before I'm like just almost hydrated to where I'm drinking water like to where I'm just about to throw up. I just want to make sure that like because my gym doesn't have air conditioner and we're in Florida, so I'm like 3 shirts into it. It's like I'm thirsty. But we do like a lot of like scapular retractions, a lot of just rotator cuff stuff like around the worlds. We'll do a lot of maintenance stuff like that, face pulls just to make sure that like shoulders don't go back. And it's usually those little stupid muscles that kind of like keep your shoulders like rotated back that like just go out. So it doesn't take a lot to work on, but it's something that we need to do.
Sure. Yeah, those are often negated. And it does seem to help. I got away from them for a while, just to be honest, just kind of laziness for a little. And I definitely noticed some things creeping up. And within, I would say, a few weeks of working the external rotators, it seemed to bring everything back together.
Yep. And that was one of the best things that, like, even working with Josh, like, he makes sure that I'm doing what I need to do versus what I want to do. And some of the stuff that he has me do is like, crap. Like, I really hate doing chest-supported dumbbell rows, but you can't breathe because you're hanging my bench. But they work really good, and I need to work on them because that's the part that I'm lacking in. So I do them.
Gotcha. And we mentioned before you had competed in 275 and in 242. When you are dropping weight, do you have a certain method to do it in the most effective way so that people aren't losing a ton of strength to get into their weight class?
I don't really drop a lot of weight. I walk around like 250. I'm really good at dropping weight, and I'm really good at gaining weight. I feel like garbage when I get over like 250. Like tying my shoes, like a pain in the ass. Like I have to get it like 3 reps. But then it's like when I get below 250, like I don't really notice the difference. But it seems like I ate a little bit cleaner, so I might actually feel a little bit better. However, like when I was at 275, I wasn't 275. I went to Texas, and the competition was in Texas, so me and Josh actually drove there, and he made me stop at every single Golden Corral that we passed to try to get up and weight. So I think I ended up lifting at like 255.
Okay.
I wasn't very heavy.
Gotcha. Yeah, especially, I mean, because you're how tall roughly?
5'8".
5'8". So yeah, I mean that's a ton of weight to pack on there.
Yeah, it was rough, and it just seemed like all the blood in my whole body was like in my stomach trying to digest like I know it's like the highest quality steak at Golden Corral, but
right.
All you can eat steak is always a safe choice for gaining weight, but I mean, do what you got to do.
Right. I've seen Clint Darden recommend that pretty much he thinks that almost everybody should try equipped lifting at some point. Do you find any utility in that for people who are mostly just going to stick with raw lifting to have a phase of equipped lifting?
I can see what he's talking about and like what the benefit would be. I don't necessarily think they need to.
Mm-hmm.
That's like saying like I think that all high jumpers should at least try pole vault. Yeah, I mean it might help. It'll get you like accustomed to going up high and over the bar, but I mean, it's two completely different things.
And you've done both, right?
I want to say I've put a shirt on 3 times.
Oh, really? Okay. So pretty limited.
Yeah. And one time I didn't know what it was, and there was somebody, it was at a competition, it was like my second competition, and I asked him what it was. He's like, oh, it's a shirt that adds like 50 pounds to your bench. You want to use it? I was like, yes. I didn't know anything, and it ended up tearing, so I took it off.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Tore in the middle of the lift?
No, I was warming up, and it was kind of frustrating because I put like, I want to say I put like 700 on, and I like completely relaxed, and I still couldn't get it to touch.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was touching like in the same spot that I was touching like with a normal bench, but.
Right.
One of those, again, I had no idea what I was doing going into the sport. He just kind of lifted for fun.
My old coach and Josh had both told me stories about the exact same thing, that they put the shirt on, and with something crazy like 600 to 700 pounds, they literally couldn't touch their chest, which I think if you haven't seen people do equipped lifting, you don't realize how much those shirts, how much tension is really in those shirts.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't even like one of the new ones that like are the easy flex to put on and stuff. This was like putting on like my 5-year-old daughter's shirt. And like it was like made of denim, and like I couldn't get it. It was just I was exhausted by the time I got it on.
Yeah.
But then after the workout, like I didn't feel anything. So I don't know. I don't really see the benefit in it. I can see how it could help, and it could like with overload and CNS and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not gonna try it.
Gotcha. And obviously bench is, one of the most popular, probably the most popular exercise. It's the one everybody wants to brag about. So when people are trying to get it up there, what do you see as the biggest mistakes people make, like right out the gate?
With powerlifting, it seems like now people are more focused on little nitpicky things that might add a little bit here or there versus just getting stronger. They're foam rolling and they're working on their arch and they're bringing their hips in and the shoulders back. I lay down and I just touch the bar to my chest and I push it up. Like I don't have like a big end zone dance like before I get on the bench or anything else like myself. With somebody who's just kind of casually lifting, I mean, just making sure that their form's not horrible. Because I mean, it's one of those like kind of like curling. Like you can curl and you can curl wrong. You're still going to get some benefit out of it. And for long, you'll realize like what's better suited for you as far as form, and kind of like exploit that. But I mean, that's probably the difference. Like I said, the main thing I'm noticing more and more online now is just people are like just really trying to like arch their back more, or try to get. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think in part, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I think part of it is like they see. Obviously there's going to be a huge genetic component to this, right? And you right out the gates just exploded. And I think people, they might see that and want to think that maybe they could get there too. And so just benching maybe hasn't gotten them a 400-pound or 500-pound bench. So they think all these little details are going to help. But at the end of the day, I agree that, they might help a little bit. But I think ultimately it's the hard work, consistency, and then the right build and genetics for it.
Yep. I think, yeah, genetics, diet, all that, it definitely has like a ton to do with it. I mean, I'm not going to be like one of the best basketball players. I can guarantee you that I'm not going to be in the NBA. I mean, I'm 5'8", and I've got bigger hands and shorter forearms. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but my hand is like the same size as my entire body. So, I mean, I'm going into the game a little bit advantaged. But, I mean, there's nothing that can't be out-trained. I mean, you can work hard. James Strickland, he's got long arms, and he's benching almost 700 also. So
Right. So I like to kind of end on an actionable step. And so I'm going to throw the same one at you that I threw at Josh, which was that if you have somebody come to you and they've been lifting for 15 years and they said for the last 5, their bench has pretty much just been completely stalled out, what's the first thing that you would tell them and look at to try to get them a new personal best?
Usually it's what they're not doing that makes them stronger, or they're focused on like, kind of like I said, like I'll do what I want to do versus what I need to do. And usually it seems like more and more people are just like kind of laying down and just benching it, but just are so slow. And it's like half of it. If you're not attacking the weight and like pushing up with everything you have, it's not going to be anywhere near what it could be. So most people just are, I don't know, I'm going to say probably just work on their speed and try to adjust their techniques where they're actually like incorporating all those muscle groups together.
Awesome. Yeah, I think what you said about the doing what you don't want to do, which, as you mentioned, the utility of a coach is great there because you're kind of forced to. But I think we all, especially after that many years, you kind of get into a rut of things you avoid, even if you know it's beneficial for you.
Right. Because, I mean, everybody wants to come in, especially like if you walk into a gym and you're like, oh, this is like the most motivating gym ever. And you look on the program and it's like a lightweight for sets of 8. You're like, man, you know that you wouldn't have done that if it didn't say to. So, I mean, having it written out by somebody and sticking to it, what's going to make you stronger that day or what's going to make you stronger 5 years down the road?
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for talking with us. And where can people find more about you?
More about me?
Yeah, the Instagram, YouTube, anything like that.
I want to say it's Hornstra_strong. I have a website called Google, and they can find me on that. I got a website, JeremyHornstra.com, and it pretty much all links to my gym membership, my gym website, SeminoleStrengthAndConditioning.com. So I'm on all of them.
Very cool. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thanks again.
No problem. Thank you.